Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday!
Yay! Yeah, I am not donning my robe this morning because it's really hot.
The amount of mornings that you've worn that when it is actually also very hot, I'm just like, wow, that's commitment.
Thanks. I couldn't bring myself to do it this morning. Yeah, I think last time, it was either last week or the week before, like the second we went off the air, I was like, ugh, I'm dead.
Must take off.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, so welcome everyone. This is our Star Trek Sunday brunch. We're going to be discussing some Deep Space Nine episodes here. Oh, and kicking it off with a follow. Thank you, Captain Brilliant. And hey, Procyon. So Samantha's watching Deep Space Nine for the first time. Yay! And we blitzed through season one. Season one is a little shorter,
Yeah.
but yeah, so we're gonna finish season one today and then talk about the first 4 episodes of season two. So we're gonna be discussing Duet, brilliant, In the Hands of the Prophets, stressful, but brilliant. The first 3, that first arc that we got, kind of our first really serialized arc in DS9, where we get the Homecoming, the Circle, and the Siege, and then we'll close out with Invasive Procedures. So we're gonna get through 6 episodes today. So, how'd you like this set? DS9 still going well?
Oh man, yes, very well. This was quite a intense group of episodes, but I do feel like now I'm kind of more up to speed with like Bajor and Cardassians and the religion and all aspects of that. Knowing now, I can see how watching it from the beginning, I'd be much more clued in to
Gotcha.
kind of what the deal is. So yeah,
Nice.
really, really excited about that.
Awesome. So yeah, the first one we're going to talk about is Duet. And this one is a really intense, emotional episode. I think this usually tops a lot of people's lists for favorite episodes, particularly if you're a major Kira fan. But this is where Kira finds herself. There's a guy, this Cardassian, that is having some medical issues. He basically has... oh God, what was the name of the syndrome? Did I not write down the syndrome? Kalanora syndrome.
Kalanora.
And that people who have this disease must have got it from the Galatep slave labor camp during the Bajoran conflict. And so she's like, he's a war criminal, arrest him. I don't care who he is. He was there. He's got to be arrested. And then we find out that, like, he's actually Gul Darheel, the dude who ran the camp. And then we find out that it's actually not Gul Darheel, but who we originally thought, Amin Maritza, but he wants to be punished for these crimes. So this is...
super intense, but super good. Like, this whole episode, you just kind of on the edge of your seat, just not even necessarily, I mean, you want to know who the guy is, but just, I mean, the acting was impeccable. The pacing was like, just, it was such a good episode in terms of story and writing, and Kira was unbelievable. The character development here was just phenomenal.
So you said, you said last week, I think you were feeling a little bit like Kira only had a 0 or a 10 but with her emotions. And I think this is where we start to fill in those gray areas a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, this episode was just the precipice still. Like, she still kind of had the like one, and then the, oh my God, things are horrible and crazy and he must die thing. But then like, that was like the first half, and then the second half, she started to grow into like questioning, which for her was like this major struggle of questioning, could he possibly be what he says he is?
Yeah.
In terms of a Cardassian who is feeling so guilty about what he did that he wants to punish himself this way. And I mean, what an interesting twist on that idea of like, I'm going to make myself look like the worst enemy of the people, ever, and be captured as that person, make myself behave like that person and talk like that person, which is super Trumpian, like bragging about his prowess his no guilt, like completely psychopathic, no guilt. But you're actually this person who has that much guilt to do that. Like, it's just super interesting, I thought.
Yeah, it really is. And I think that, you know, he's able to convey, like you said, I mean, it's when they first sort of piece together that he's not Amun Maritza, which he actually is, but when they first make the realization that, like, he's Gul Darheel, when they find the pictures and they see him there, the zoom and enhance, and they're like, that's the dude, that's Gul Darheel, that's the guy that ran the whole thing. And then, the fact that then he flips that switch and he's like, yeah, suck it, you caught me, losers, F Bajorans, you know? And,
exactly.
Yeah, it's really brutal. So yeah, a couple people in the chat, Procyon and Fenmil, all major Kira fans. And then, Cairo was talking about how, that we have Kira Nerese's growth, which we see through this whole set of episodes. And then that Cardassia has a lot of healing to do, and that we're seeing that the pain of, you know, the traumatic stress that was put on the unwilling Cardassian participants who are, you know, I mean, that's sort of one of those discussions we have a lot of ourselves.
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting discussion of these sorts of, you know, wartime circumstances. That's kind of it's a very tough conversation. Like, you know, people who were working in the Nazi camps, they may not have wanted to be there, but they didn't help. And like, that's a really complicated issue for those people. And it's not something you talk about as much because it's, you know, I think you're just less sympathetic. But it's a very interesting conversation.
Yeah, it really is. This whole file clerk feeling complicit and needing to be punished and not getting to be punished in the way he feels like he deserves. It's brutal.
Yeah, actually, and at the end, she almost doesn't give him that satisfaction in a way, but it's, which I just thought of in those words right now, like, you know, but she also is recognizing not every Cardassian is the same. And I think that is really key.
Yeah.
Kind of like me realizing not all Ferengis are the same.
Yeah, no, exactly. But I think that you know, that realization, it's a huge moment for Kira. And the fact that, like, I think the thing is that we as viewers and kind of through the eyes of Kira realize that when he says, like, he wants to be punished, and you realize the lengths that he's gone to be punished to the extent that he feels he deserves, that's where it's like, okay, he's punished himself enough. You know, he's not the guy who ran the camp. Like, he doesn't deserve to be punished in the same way. He might deserve to be punished, and that's that moral issue, and that's that ethical issue. But no, you know, the fact that he's conflated his role with the guy that ran the whole dang thing is pretty crazy.
Crazy, yeah, exactly. That's a lot of just self-hatred and just acknowledging what went on there, and acknowledging that he didn't feel like he did enough, or maybe there wasn't anything he could do. I mean, that's extremely difficult, but just, yeah, can you imagine carrying that around? And you're right, the lengths that he went to punish himself was just astounding.
We also got another appearance from Gul Dukat here, because he's the one they call up and they're like, hey, bro, we've got Gul Darheel here. And he's like, you definitely don't, because I was at his funeral. So Gul Dukat, you're going to see a lot more. You're going to see a lot more. So it's interesting, again, as a multiple repeat watcher. I'm like, oh, Gul Dukat. There we are again. But, you know, just to close out the topic on this episode, I think just the greatest moment, it gives me chills every single time, is when that Bajoran stabs him at the end. And she's like, and Kira's the one that runs to his side and just says, why did you do that? Like, you know, and he says he's a Cardassian. I don't need any more explanation than that. And it's not enough.
It's not. Yeah. That moment, like, chills, absolute chills.
Well, because I think too that the reason that moment hits so well is you see Kira, she's thinking that for the first time when she says that.
Exactly.
Like, that's why that works so well. That as soon as she says it's not, it's like, she's like, I can't believe those words just came out. Like, you know, yeah.
Totally. Yeah. And you can see in the following episodes, like, there's still a lot of growth for her to go through. Like, it's not like a black and white sort of, no, it's not realization, but it's a fundamental shift that she grows into.
For sure. Yeah. So such a good episode.
Brilliant episode.
All right, so we are off and yay, Astro, woohoo, Garrick jazz hands. Thank you. So yeah, the next episode, Vedic win. So this is your first exposure to Vedic win, but the which I will slip at some point here as well, but yeah, and thank you, Zach. Yeah, it's been 6 months. That's crazy. So this is the season finale for season 1. This is In the Hands of the Prophets, and essentially, you know, Keiko is teaching school as we've established in this first season, and she's teaching the science behind the wormhole and the fact that there are these wormhole aliens. It's very close to my heart, and she explains it very well. And then Vedic Wind shows up with her Sydney opera hat and
exactly right.
shuts this nonsense down, and she's just basically like, you're all sinners, you're not teaching it correctly, you can't teach this without the religion. And then there's a whole thing about shutting the school down, pulling the Bajoran students out, and then the school gets bombed, and there's like an assassination. Like, it's a bonkers episode.
Yep.
And I love it.
Yep. Super good episode. Super uncomfortable topic for me. Like, I mean, just anytime there's anything to do with religion versus science in school, it makes me like I get super like annoyed and angry and uncomfortable about that. It's not.
And
cool.
She portrays it so well.
She is so good. I know you mentioned
so good.
You mentioned last Sunday when you're introducing these were the ones we're going to watch next. Like, this is the one where there's a fantastic character, not good character, but someone that everyone loves to hate. And you're absolutely right. She is phenomenal. Like,
her arrogance and her condescension and her like political savvy, it's just dripping. I mean, there's a reason that woman won an Academy Award. Like, it's
right.
She's brilliant.
Yeah, and I think it's because it's like, it's that whole I'm not angry, I'm just disappointed type of tone of voice. Like, she doesn't yell.
Yeah.
She's just cool and calculated and like calm, and that's what makes it so creepy.
Yeah. Yeah. And that she's that holier than thou drip, you know, of just my child.
Yes. And what's so also creepy is she seems like she's not necessarily nice, but like diplomatic and kind almost in the beginning. Like, the way she says things is, I want to work this out with you. I will. And like, when Keiko stood her ground against that, I was like, good on you, Keiko. Because I almost was like, oh, she needs it. Like, for a split second. I mean,
totally. Yeah, lots of love for this actress, Louise Fletcher, in the chat. The Academy Award that she won was for Nurse Ratched in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Also, scary character. Yeah. She's good. She's brilliant. And yeah, also, hi, Mikhail. So yeah, and obviously I think because it is one of these topics that there is a lot of emotion and politics just even in our current society with this. And I think, I mean, obviously this was a lot more in the public discourse in the late 90s, because that's when, you know, we were getting the lawsuits about being able to teach religion and science and how to handle that in schools. And so this was, you know, obviously in the news a lot more when this was airing, but the topic hasn't gone away. And I think it's it's not your, it's all that every time she's like, my child, I'm like, but yeah, she's so good. Yeah, Dr. Ina, for sure. And I do like, I think Fenmel might have been the one that said it earlier up, but that we wanted to see more, more Miles and Keiko. And I think that is something that I really like in this episode, is that we get to see Keiko as her own character, but we also get to see the respect and love that O'Brien and Keiko have for each other. And I think that it really comes across. He trusts her. He backs her up. He's like, lets her handle it. And, you know, unless that, you know, he wants to defend her, but kind of lets her have her space to stand up to it too. And so it's really interesting. Yeah.
Their relationship is so good. I wish we saw more of them together like this. And but
also, I just noticed that the username in the chat, Kai Ro, as in like Kai Ro Laren, like if that's where that came from, that's brilliant. That's a great username. Appended with the Universal Star Trek 47, so I'm guessing that's where it's from. But if it is, well done. Applause for that one. But yeah, it's that sweet, kind, disarm you with kindness, yet it's everything she's doing is dripping with political savvy. I just, so much worship for Louise Fletcher in this role. She's amazing.
So much. And I mean, and completely manipulative with Neela, you know, and that's also just makes my blood boil because it's like religion has nothing to do with it. She's just using the religion as a complete manipulation tool to get her to do the assassination so that she doesn't have to. Like, right. I mean, unbelievable.
Yeah. And so if anyone didn't remember, that Neela was the one that has been stationed on Deep Space Nine. And I think we saw her in the previous episode too, where like, and she's just kind of really brilliant, really useful. O'Brien likes working with her. There's like that brief second where you're like, are they? No, but obviously not. Cause then we get great scenes with Miles and Keiko. But Neela, like, and then it turns out she's the one that was like pushing a lot of the more violent extremist side, but they really leave it where they don't say it explicitly, but you walk away from that being like, that was all Vedic Wynn right there. All 100%.
Completely. Yeah. Cause she's convinced, she's having her moment of doubt, and Wynn is like, sometimes the prophets tell us to do things and we must do them because then you'll get your place in the blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, oh my God, religious manipulation. I know. This has been going on for thousands of years.
I know. It's not going to get better, but they capture that emotion so well. Yeah. And, okay, so I completely projected Cairo's name into the discussion. Well done. I retract what I say, but it's still a cool name. So yeah, the way too that I think one of the reasons that this episode works in the sense that we are introducing Vedic Wynn, the fact that it's like about the kids and about this like child manipulation, and the fact that like the kids don't know any better one way or the other. They're just learning about the wormhole, and then they have their religion, and so it's the fact that they're kind of being used as pawns for Vedic Wynn's like opportunity to insert this discussion is intense.
Exactly.
Yeah, picking a soft target. And I think that scene where you see her outside of where they walk up to the school and she's there with like all the literal children around her being like, we're walking out of here. And it's like, they don't know any different, you know?
Yeah. But okay, I have a question.
Okay.
So this whole thing is about the prophets, which are the aliens from the wormhole that Cisco encountered.
Yes.
Right? Did they only learn about those prophets after Cisco encountered them?
No. So this but this is the first time someone has literally, like, so and people in the chat can correct me if I'm not as well up to speed in Bajoran religion as I am with Klingon politics. So, but as far as I understand, it's a religion, it's a faith, and then but their religion has predicted the existence of these prophets and the way that it's been told, and then they discovered. So what Sisko did is he discovered the wormhole itself, but that connected the dots within the Bajoran religion to be like, that's who the texts have been referencing. Like, that's what our religion is. And that's why Sisko is seen as this sort of divine person within the within the Bajoran community, because he discovered the literal existence of the prophets. So yeah, up until now, like, the current generations at least have not interacted, but they've told these stories.
Okay. Because I was like, that's really recent for you to come up with some prophets, you know, to be this angry about. Yeah. So okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So yeah, this isn't, and I think we'll see that in the next sort of couple. I think in our next set of episodes, there's one where it might not have been, but one of these things where it's like the prediction. Okay, yeah, no, that is further up, but where they've, you know, found things within the Bajoran religion that they're piecing together, and yeah, so.
Gotcha. Okay, that's cool.
The actual interaction with the wormhole, and that's why I think too, that's part of the discussion with Keiko, is that she's teaching these is like there are literal aliens within the wormhole. Whether or not those fit your prophets is different, but they're always there. So, okay. Right. People are chiming in, so thank you. Star Trek fans to the rescue. Yes, Astro, thank you for the reminder. So they've also had those religious experiences with the prophets through the orbs. So they have those orbs, and remember, they are essentially, that's a similar experience, as we'll see in the next set of episodes, or the next, the beginning of season 2, that's like who they're communicating with. It's a similar experience to what Sisko had. And then Cairo said the text always said that the prophets were living in the celestial temple, but that temple being the wormhole.
Okay.
Connection.
Okay. So. That's a lot clearer.
No worries.
For me.
And yeah, Fenmil, I mean, welcome to the party. Rewatching Deep Space Nine is a trip. And this is like, I literally just finished a rewatch of it, and then we got to this. It's fun. It's fun for me. And
it's on Netflix too. You don't need CBS sub.
Yeah, this is true. So yeah, I think did we have any other notes on this one? We also I'm gonna vent about this dude a lot more in the next couple episodes, but we also met Vedic Bareil, the other dude whom I do not like personally. But they don't, I mean,
so interesting.
Vedic Win, sorry. I knew that was going to happen. I was so careful. That she far outshines with the irritation factor here. But Vedic Bareil is also pulling some BS here when Sisko asks him to step in and help out the situation and basically calm things down. And he straight up is just like, nope, I've got political aspirations. I want to be Kai. I'm not getting involved in this. You can't pull me in the middle of this. And I'm like, F you, dude. Like, ooh. So we're about to talk about Vedic Bareil.
That's funny. He didn't strike me one way or the other. Honestly, okay. I think probably because he was such a actual honest seeming person-ish, like as opposed to the other Win.
Yeah.
I can see how he'd be annoying, and he was annoying, but he didn't like strike me like so deeply.
You didn't feel visceral irritation.
No, I did kind of feel visceral irritation with some of the other people we're going to meet later on in these episodes, but
yay. Okay, good. Awesome. And then I think in the just before we carry on, you had a note here about Sisko's speech to Jake.
Yeah. So earlier in the episode, Jake was like, being like, why are they pushing their religion in, like this is stupid, and we can't go to school, and this is ridiculous. And I thought Cisco's response was actually quite interesting in that it was, well, I mean, not just, I mean, he was like, we can't, you might disagree with them, but this is their religion, and you can't discount it just because you don't believe what they believe. And it was just a great speech, I thought, in terms of when you can be, and Cisco's obviously dealing with what he's dealing with, and it's very anger inducing that this is happening on the station, and he's irritated that he's this, you know, person that the Bajorans are lauding as you've spoken with the prophets and you must be involved now in our religion. And so that's all happening for Cisco, but to Jake, he's like using this as a teaching moment, I guess, about religion versus just not being religious. And I mean, I just identified with that type of conversation, I guess.
Cool. Yeah, no, but I think that's something that Deep Space Nine offered that was so unique, that to get to see Cisco as a dad and his father moments with Jake are really well done and very well written.
Very well done.
All right, so let's talk now about this 3-parter opener to season 2. So we have, first up is the Homecoming, and to be honest, I completely forgot about this arc until it started again. I was like, oh yeah, and it's pretty good. Like, they essentially kick things off where, so the first episode is the Homecoming. Kira finds this earring. I think Quark found it and brought it to her, and recognizes it as belonging to Lee Nollis, and realizes that there is a group of Bajorans still being held prisoner, despite the war being over, in Cardassian occupied, I think, Cardassia 4. And so they go to rescue him, and we start to see that that there's an organization called the Circle that's starting to insert themselves. This is like, we start to get those seeds planted here, that is starting to take over Bajor. So do we want to let's talk about each episode individually, I guess, and then we can kind of talk about the full arc itself. But, so what'd you think?
So this starts to introduce the sort of almost ethnic cleansing idea from the Bajorian people, like this Circle, you know, organization, right? Because they're drawing that thing on the doors and trying to get all of the non-Bajorans off of Bajor,
right?
Which you know, interesting aspects that I was not expecting. But so I thought, I mean, this first episode that introduces this 3-parter was great. I really liked it. The scene of them liberating the POWs was really well done, and I liked that a lot. In terms of Lee Nollis, the character, I found him really uninspiring, like completely uninspiring.
Yeah.
As, I mean, the character idea, like, super interesting. The sort of person who doesn't want to be the hero, and his whole like complex about I'm not who they think I am, and blah blah. Like, that could have been really well done. It was just like, oh, like I was like yawning and like, why is this guy talking? Like, just go away, please, stop.
It's really interesting. So Fenmil cheered, and unfortunately, unlike Starstrider, our good friend Dr. Pamela Gay, I do not have any pets that like Cheerios. Unfortunately, I don't have any pets whatsoever. So I will try to think of something that we can use for cheers. That is the same as dog camera. But yeah, sorry, Bad Panda, you missed the discussion on Duet. But we're recording this, so we'll post this up on YouTube if you want to catch the beginning of it. So good. So yeah, with Lee Nollis, like, I completely agree. I think that, and it's interesting how much of it might be written in to the character. Like, is it the actor's choice or the actor themselves, you know, that's not making that character work? And this idea that, like, maybe he's just super bored of, you know, that he's just like, dude, I was like kind of chill. I was enjoying that solitude in the camp thing.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they got my earring, they sent it off, whatever. F all you guys, because I don't want any of this hot nonsense. And
yeah, but I was like, he was all just going, woe is me, Eeyore about it. I'm like, okay, fine, leave. Like, just please go away. You were so boring.
right. And but they legitimately, I mean, the Bajoran government, they kind of see that, right? That they're just like, this dude, like, we got to find him something to do because obviously the people like him more than what we actually see. They like the idea of him. And so we've got to put this guy somewhere where no one's going to bother him.
Exactly.
And still seems important, but not important enough to actually have any effect on our government. And I think that's fascinating.
Yeah, definitely. That political move was super, super interesting. And
it shows also how little Bajor thinks of Kira's position on Deep Space Nine. That they're like, we'll put him there and we'll promote Kira. But this is a good, quiet place to put him, so he leaves us alone. That's interesting. You know?
It is interesting, yeah. Seeing it from their perspective that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as you mentioned, the scene where they liberate the camp, that's kind of like, as I was watching it, from doing this rewatch in the order that we have, which was Voyager, TNG, and then this is kind of the first military type. I mean, I guess Lucutia still had some of that, but this is like on-ground military liberation. They are armed with weapons, they are firing them. This is like a strategic get them out situation. It's interesting. I'm glad you liked it, because there's gonna be more. But we also got to learn more about O'Brien. You know, the fact that like he was he fought in the Cardassian conflict, and he can handle a weapon. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he held his own in that operation, and I mean, the very fact that they got to do the operation was like, I mean, Sisko took a major leap of faith with Kira there, which shows again how much their relationship has grown in such a short amount of time.
Right.
Because I was just like, wow, that is a risky move to basically declare war again and Sisko is funny, like, she told everybody, does anyone not know that Kira is going?
Yeah. Even the whole interaction with Sisko here was fantastic, that even when Kira was like, you don't want me to tell you why I need it, and he's like, no, you have to tell me. And then she tells him she needs to go rescue this prisoner, and he's like, yep, I didn't want to know, but thanks. And then Jetsy is like, so did you give Kira that runabout? And he's like, the hell? But yeah, good times.
Good times.
I like that idea, Astro. I'll think about it. Let me see. Was there anything else in this one particularly? Or we can move on, because it basically ends with Kira being promoted, taken off of her position.
Right.
Yeah, in exchange for this super boring dude to be there.
Well, like, he doesn't emote or react to anything. Like, that happened and he was like, okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, he didn't even look sad or mad or sympathetic, or like, there was just like nothing going on.
Yeah. Yep. We right. do so yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. And who are we to project? I mean, this is a good gig for a dude, an actor gets a nice 3-part series, recurring character.
And sure. I don't like to knock the actor. Like, they could have been directed like that, and just somehow the energy and chemistry did not work on his face. And that's, I get that, but at the same time, it was not entertaining to watch.
Yeah. So we do so then we get into the second part of this. The next episode is called The Circle, and this is basically, this is our middle part of the arc, where we kind of lay the groundwork for what happens in the next one. But greatest scene. I think this is where Deep Space Nine, for me personally, stands far above the others. It's the reason why Deep Space Nine is my favorite series, because we still got some great, hilarious, adorable, touching moments between Voyager and TNG and all of those. But they've somehow created this dynamic in Deep Space Nine where every character is so unique and so different that none of them should be friends, and yet they are. And so the scene I'm talking about is essentially the opener where Kira's packing her bags and they're all dropping by, and it's almost like a sitcom scene.
Yeah, it was so good. I mean, that was a moment where I realized, like, okay, Deep Space Nine, like, I get it. I get you. Like, this is good.
Exactly. And you get, like, you're having this nice, you know, sort of moment with Odo and Jadzia. You know, you see this friendship between Jadzia and Kira, and then, you know, Bashir just kind of, like, innocently is like, hey, just want to wish you luck. And then O'Brien shows up and she's like, God, what are you doing here? And then Vedic Brile enters the room, and my blood pressure goes up. The mood in the room does that, and but he's just like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "These are my friends," and I'm like, "Ah!"
I know. I did the same thing. That was so sweet. Because she's like not sure at first, and then she's like, "Well, yeah, I'm gonna miss these people." Like that. There was so much loaded in her saying that, you know.
It really was. And I think we had forgotten, I think they did a great job consciously of sort of setting that opening at the beginning of the first season where Kira's has this position. Everyone's irritated about everyone. Like, Sisko doesn't want to be there. Kira doesn't want to be there. They hate that the Bajorans of the Federation are working together. And then they just have slowly planted the seeds such that at this point we really feel like Kira is like, I kind of like this job. You know, you had Sisko talk to her a couple episodes ago and say, I'm talking to you as a friend, you know, and then we started to get all this. And then you feel that intrinsically when they're all in her room, that you're just like, this is a cool, quirky group of people.
Exactly. And now it's being ruined.
And now it's being taken away from us. So this one, a lot of this is kind of Kira focused, that she's back on Bajor and she's kind of at a monastery, taking some time to herself, figure out what she wants through the guidance of Vedic Brile. And, you know, she uses an orb. She kind of sees some of this future for her. And then, we have Vedic Wynn enter the picture again, and basically, she's trying to play all the sides. But so was it this episode? I think it was this episode where, oh my god, I love this. I had to pause this and I was like, that moment is why I like Vedic Wynn. Look, I did it again. Vedic Wynn so much is so Kira's there. She's in the sort of like meditation garden and
creating rocks, like just
crooked rocks, right?
Yes.
And Vedic Wynn shows up and she's basically like, what are you doing here, my child? Like, I don't want you here. Get this vibe. I want you to be away from this area right now, and I don't like you. And then she throws this line, which honestly, like, everyone should have in their back pocket to use sometimes, where she says, feel free to stay here as long as you want, even up to a week if necessary. And I was like, whoa, that just summarizes her character so brilliant, where it's like, you know, of course you can stay here even a week, tells you everything you need to know, where it's like, you best not be staying here more than a week.
Exactly.
That
was so brilliant.
So good. So keep that in your pocket for unwanted guests, house guests.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you can come and visit, stay as long as even like a whole weekend if you want. You know, that says everything. I love it. It's so good. So if I ever pull that on anyone,
this is where it's coming from.
It's loaded. Yeah, exactly. I love it. And then so we learned more also about this Jaro Essa, who was sort of doing a lot of the political machinations between Lee Nollis and everything else. And then we find out that he's the head of this circle and they kidnap Kira.
It's an exposition type of episode.
It's a middle of an arc episode. Yep. Act 2.
Right.
But I mean, we have plenty to talk about with the last one. So the last episode is the siege, and this is the conclusion. They basically, the Bajorans come over and take over Deep Space Nine as part of this circle, you know, who's in charge, who's doing what. So the Bajorans move in. Cisco, instead of moving out, basically they all hide in the conduits and plan their strategy, which I love, and also contributed to some great scenes. And then we got Kira and Dax going to commandeer a freighter, basically go get evidence that actually the Cardassians are the ones who are behind the circle and are pulling all of the strings, to try to, the political intrigue, man, it's deep. There's some
that was so funny that the Cardassians are backing this coup. I was like, like,
because of course.
Womp womp. Like,
Yeah.
and also because it's that whole political puppet thing. Like, he thinks he's in charge. Like, he's so powerful. They think they're super sneaky. They've got this like coup going, but
They have
it's
the
like
cool
all being,
symbol.
yeah, it's like exactly, but it's all being funded and backed by the Cardassians, and I'm just like, you are really stupid.
Loser.
Yeah.
Follow the money. I mean, that's what they always say. Follow the money for
hilarious.
this. Yeah, it's a really good revelation, and we get some great scenes with these characters. So I do want to let's talk first then about Kira and Dax and their scenes together. I personally loved them going in this runabout. They had a great reason in that Dax, one of her former symbionts was like this dorky engineer, right. And he could help Tobin Dax.
Yeah.
And so she comes along so she can sort of channel Tobin and help repair this. Yeah. And Kira used to fight in these things. And it's a great dynamic. I mean, you know, they blow the, whatever it's called out of the water with the two women having some badass scenes together.
Oh, they were awesome. That was so fun to see them together, because we haven't really seen too many scenes of just the two of them, really. And to watch, they work it out. And just, it's funny because they, as characters, they don't really have a lot in common at all, really. But they get along, and they make this work, and that was a great scene of them fighting and flying together. Yeah. They had some fun back and forth.
They really did. I think my favorite one was when the targeting is down for the firing, and she's like, the targeting's down. She's like, you point and shoot. Okay, just let me take care of it. You focus on flying. I'll take care of this. And it's just a great dynamic. You don't feel like there's irritation. You feel like there's respect. Right. They're not best friends, but they're working well together. Seat of the pants technology. Exactly. Also, I didn't see Muhammad drop in the chat, so hi. And hi, I like that as well with Cairo. He's everything organized, even religious support from Wynn. What could possibly go wrong? That's really good. Exactly. So Kira and Dax, great scenes together. They, use your knees, bend your knees.
They were short engineers.
Exactly. It was the engineers.
It's really random.
I like too when they're getting kind of fought and shot down, and she's like, yeah, those are the dudes that used to fly these things, so they know what's up. So that was really good. And I love all of them hiding out in the conduits.
That was so good.
I love it. And they're all like, I know they're here. Like, I know Cisco's still here. There's no way that dude just left without a fight.
Yeah, but it's just so funny how like the Bajorans who are occupying DS9, basically, that come on board. Right, they're like, we know they're here, so let's do some tech stuff to find them and look in the computer and stuff. But how is it that like everyone is just not as smart as the Starfleet people? Like it's Harry Kim or Jordy or anybody would have been like, well, I can just do this and this and this and this and this and this, and then we can bypass this, and then we can find them like this, and then because they've done this, then I'll do that. And the Bajorans are just kind of like, let me try this.
Well, but too though, remember, Bajor has never been in, like, that's a Cardassian space station, so they don't technically know how it works.
True.
Yeah, Churabel said it's because they're all MacGyver engineers. I mean,
well, yeah, but I guess, but I'm saying, like, even in the same situation, somebody like a Geordi or a Harry Kim or whatever would have been like, look at it for like 3 seconds, go, oh, okay, I get it, and like, just know how to do it. And it's just a funny like thing.
I like that.
But they did the one thing. Was this the episode where they flood with?
Yeah.
They do something, and O'Brien's like, it's something I might have thought of.
Yeah, where they're gonna flood the conduits with gas, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was funny. I liked O'Brien's back and forth here with this too, where he basically packed a bunch of combat rations, and he's like, "Oh, I love these things. It's like, we lived on these for like all the time. It's got all the nutrients you need." And he's like, "Hey, Bashir, aren't these great?" And he's like, "Yeah, I designed like some cookies that taste a lot better than this and have more nutrients than this."
Exactly.
The bromance continues to grow.
It continues to grow.
I love it.
Yeah. And just, the holodeck moment was funny as well.
That's where they basically they trick General Krim. Was it General? He was the guy in charge. Yeah, they trick him in the holodeck. And, yeah. How do people not know that? That's so good. Well, so speaking of holodecks, we also have to talk about Quark's evacuation hustle, where he was basically selling seats on the evacuation shuttles and then overbooks everyone. And all chaos reigns. Rom is like completely his brother. I love we learn more about their dynamic together. You know, we have their, where he's like divvying up the profits and everything. And then Rom screws him over with zero apology here. He's like, oh yeah, he went on with the Dabo girl. Suck it, Quark.
Quark, like, God love him, but this was not his finest moment. Like, people are trying to freaking escape. Like, you don't do that. Like,
Starfleet doesn't. Ferengis do that.
Ferengi do that, I know. But I was like, oh, Quark, I was really starting to like you.
It was so funny. It's so funny. I love it. And yeah, Rom is brilliant. I love learning more about him. I like that Churabel. He's an evil genius with a heart of gold. That's right. Very much sums him up. And it's like he's got such a weird power dynamic with his brother, such that like he's not in charge. He can't dictate anything. He's kind of knows he's smarter than Quark, not in a profit sense, but in other things. And just when he has an opportunity to screw him, he takes it. And because those opportunities don't come up that often.
Right, no.
And then just to close out the discussion on this one, they conclude Leonalis, the boring character, pretty well. That, he wants out. He's sick of everything. He doesn't want any of this hot nonsense. And then Colonel Day tries to take out Sisko, and Leonalis jumps in front of it. And consciously removes himself from this world.
From the board. Yeah. I mean, good moment. He saved him. That's, he...
Not a ton of, like, love lost there. But... Yeah,
but, I honestly was happy. he died, and I was like, oh, thank God.
I mean, they do a good job about, like, it objectively, right? He got his hero moment. He finally felt like, the way I saw it is that he had the opportunity to be the hero everyone thought that he was, and he took it. And
exactly. Yeah.
And I kind of like that.
It was a good ending, for sure.
It works for him, definitely.
Yeah.
All right. And I just saw your notes about the Cardassian funding the thing. Can I read out your bullet?
Please go for it.
You wrote in here, bahaha, Cardassians funding the operation. Womp womp, you super powerful coup people who think you're so important and sneaky. Respect. That sums it up very, very well. I love that. Womp womp,
Yeah,
you're super powerful coup people.
It was just
Good times.
All
right, so any final thoughts on this? This was my final thought. Two final thoughts. One, I didn't consciously talk about the scene, the vision that Kira got with... makes me
we can
physically ill. With Fennec
We can ignore
Brile.
that.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know if it's just like a lack of chemistry between the two of them, but I am not here for it. I am not.
Yeah.
Shut that down. They have zero chemistry. He's weird. I get like a don't have him walk behind you in an alley vibe. I do not like Fennec Brile. And yeah, I mean, it's very much, I'm just like, close my eyes, tell me when it's done.
Oh man. Yeah.
Situation.
Yeah.
But,
go ahead.
No, go on.
What was your second one?
Oh, my second one was just over the fact that, like, this is our first sort of serialized arc, where it's not clearly, like, part 1 and part 2. This is now, we're getting in the mode of, like, Deep Space Nine, you know, fully mode, you know. These are gonna be long stories that are gonna carry on. Cool. And I like that. That's one of my favorite things about Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I liked this, at least this 3-parter serialized storyline was very well done, and you know, it allowed them more time to expand on the themes of the themes of the storyline. And I think that was, again, like I mentioned earlier, like helpful for me to start to get more context into DS9 station, the station itself, and why it's there, and who the actual players are, and why in the sort of pressure cooker situation of the Cardassian occupation having ended, and now Bajor is having its own political internal problems, and then there's DS9 with the Federation, and so like you're kind of thrust into that in the beginning. So now I feel like I really have much more context.
That's awesome. I'm really glad. Yeah, I will be brutally honest about Brile. That's not going to change. So brace yourself for that. Yeah, so Annex also mentioned that DS9 does a good job about the Ferengi getting us to engage with the idea of a species that have genuinely different values of the Federation and take it seriously. And that's
a really good point.
Yeah, I think that's great. That's a really great point. And then yeah, Cairo said, I love how Wynn distances herself as soon as she sees it's not successful. Just like, I'm out. Hot nonsense. I got other plans.
Yep.
What? I wasn't. Don't.
Wait.
That wasn't me.
No. Of course not. No, my child. I shall not be there.
Yeah, I wasn't there. I don't know what you're talking about.
But they all just sort of back away slowly.
Yeah.
It's like, Cardassians. Huh.
Well, it's fascinating though, because we do have a really interesting thing that's happening with Bajor right now. And I know we still have an episode to talk about, but it's still really fascinating that, you know, there is a gaping void in the leadership of the Bajoran religion right now. That the fact that the Kai position is not filled, and people are doing that. And then, you know, the political side is seeing this power vacuum and using that to their advantage. Yeah. And it's fascinating. And works.
Yeah, it is really interesting. And I'm looking forward to following this story because, yeah, like that whole power vacuum is very clear, and you know, somebody needs to take hold of it. It just highlights the importance that Kira saw in Lee Nallas. You know, he wasn't the right person, but I get why she was so adamant that he could be the person that would help the situation.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing, I mean, we have to credit Deep Space Nine. I think what it does so well is that you have things that happen that normally would happen in another episode that is never mentioned again, and that is Kai Opaka dying, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And then Kai Opaka died, and normally be like, okay, some character growth from Kira, we learn a little bit about this, and it's like, oh no, like, there's repercussions to the passing of Kai. Well, not the past, she didn't die. She, you know, she's no longer Kai. And there's repercussions to that, and and that, I think, is what makes Deep Space Nine stand out from the rest. But
yeah, absolutely.
all right, so last episode, Invasive Procedures. I never forget this episode. This episode is incredibly painful to watch. Very painful to watch. So this is the episode where Lionel Luthor, Lex Luthor's dad from Smallville, who I can never not see, is a bitter, unpleasant Trill who is basically like, I deserve to be joined, and he takes advantage of a moment on Deep Space Nine where there's not a lot of people there, and he kidnaps Jadzia and basically tries to kill her and take the Dax symbiont and become a Dax himself. And it's a messed up episode. In a good way. I think it's well written. It's well written, personally. But yeah, because you'd been asking about the Trill, I'm really curious with your thoughts with this one.
Well, I wanted this to be a lot better of an episode, just story and writing wise, I think. It did help me get more into the Trill, getting more understanding of what that really means and is. But at the same time, like, this dude, like, God, like,
yeah, what,
like, you, okay, so it just seems like the Trill thing is you put through these procedures and tests and psychological tests and physical tests, and only a small percentage get through. And it's like, dude, I'm sorry, you didn't get through. That's for a reason. Yeah. And you're so bitter and like whiny about it, like, to do this kind of move and then you don't win anyway. It's just like, oh my God, it was just so irritatingly like small-minded of this guy. And I just found him super slimy and like okay, so there's that. And then writing wise and like where the episode slots in wise was so weird to me, because they started out going, you know, station log, blah blah blah, we've had an evacuation and there's a skeleton crew on DS9. Yeah. And I'm like, didn't we just do that? Like last episode? Like,
this was a plasma storm that caused a temporary evacuation. Yeah, conveniently.
Like, yeah, but they like literally just did an evacuation, and it took me a second. I was like, wait, are we still in the storyline? I guess like this, but it was just oddly not like there wasn't enough distance between the previous evacuation and this evacuation for me to be like.
That's totally fair. I'm gonna look up when this was, because sometimes too they're not always written in the order that they air too, so that may have not been an intentional back and forth. So yeah, they and no worries, Astro, by the way. No, it looks like production and release was the same. So yeah, I think they kick it off and say, all right, we've got temporary evacuation due to plasma disruption. Convenient. And no worries, Fenwell. And that kicks things off. I guess I always forget about that because I know what's coming in this episode. So I didn't really pull that one up, but yeah, valid.
Thank you, Kai. I'm glad you agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. And then the episode itself did not grab me.
Fair enough. I think for me, I never forget about this episode. I don't know if it's because John Glover, the actor, does such a good job of playing that role, or where I really solidified an understanding for me with the Trill culture, or the fact that we get to see Tim Russ as a Klingon. There's many things that make this episode not forgettable for me. It definitely sticks with me. I will say that. If you it's where maybe it's been a couple episodes or a couple years since I've watched Deep Space Nine, and you say, you know, that episode where that guy showed up and stole the symbiont from Dax, I like, yeah, I definitely remember that episode. And yeah, I mean, I think I agree. The whiny type attitude, he's great. Like it shows. I guess the reason that they get away with it is, again, pending the actor or, you know, whatever choices were made, you understand why he wasn't chosen. At no point do you feel like, oh, maybe he does deserve it. You're like, he does not.
Exactly. Well, I guess that was my whole thing, is like, it was almost like a non-story to me. It was like, yeah, you weren't chosen.
Yeah.
Like, get over it.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Yeah.
I mean, it's just, but yeah, I mean, just to close out, like, we had a great moment with Bashir and Dax. So
yeah, I really like seeing Bashir and Dax's relate, because we talked about how they kind of went through a little bit of an evolution where Bashir kind of, once he saw that fantasy version of Jadzia, then I think the whole thing shifted, and this is where we get to see them interact now beyond that, and it works, and their dynamic is really, really good. The last couple things here that I just want to point out, because I know we're already over, but I did really like, from a storytelling standpoint, this idea that Muriel, this like longtime friend, like, are they lovers, are they just friends, where she's obviously, they've known each other a long time, obviously he has not ever shut up about this, and so whatever her motivations are to help him get there are completely destroyed once he becomes a Trill, and I think once he becomes a Dax, and I think that's where she finally sees, oh, he never cared, he does not care about me at all, this was his end goal, he's been using me, you know, to whatever, but even if he's not aware of it, he does not care about me one bit, and then she turns on him, and I really like that. I think it's natural and it works. Let me see. Yeah, it's a little bit uneven. I did like when Benjamin was trying to talk to him, because he knows now that Jadzia, he understands Trills enough to know that he's got those memories, and that this guy is slightly different, so he tries to reason with him and say, okay, well, maybe now that you're joined, this is an opportunity to talk you out of what you just did and try to undo it. And it doesn't work, and Benjamin basically, love when he's just like, don't call me Benjamin.
Yeah, and you're not the same. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I like that a lot. But yeah. Yes. Anyway, we got that.
Cisco was great in this episode. I would say that he was the one thing I liked from this.
Yeah. And I will say his name, the character's name, was not Lionel Luthor. It was Farad. But yeah, I don't hate this episode. I would just say that in the episodes that are less well written, I would say this falls into the category of memorable. You don't like it, but you don't forget about it. So anyway, any last final thoughts?
Not from me.
In our last -3 minutes. Okay. All right. So thanks for sticking around for if people had other things that they were going to do. But our next week, we are going to be talking about the next 6 episodes. So we're going to talk about Cardassians. Great episode. Literally, we're talking about Cardassians. The episode and the species. We'll be talking about Melora, Rules of Acquisition. Guess what that's about. Necessary Evil, Second Sight, and Sanctuary. Pretty good set of episodes. So I'm excited to talk about those. But thanks for all your thoughts and insights, Samantha. This is fun, as always.
Thank you.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you to everyone for hanging out and watching, and thank you to Fenmil for all the support and the gift subs here, and the cheers. We're happy to have you here, and I'm glad to have Zach here for 6 months. So thank you, and no worries, Mohammed. I will be back on Thursday for a special 2-hour-long episode club discussion on the science of Avenue 5, which I'm super excited about. So, and then I have Astronomy 101, and then, so this week, this episode club is going to be my last weekly regular episode club. We'll just do them occasionally as we go from then on. Thanks for the follow, Riot Girl. And yeah, take care, everyone. Take care of yourselves, each other. Stand up, stretch, drink your water, wear your mask, all that fun stuff. Stay safe. It's hot out there.
Do it. Yeah.
So, all right. Thanks. We'll
Stay
talk to you
safe.
later. All right.
Bye.
Bye.